What's unique about Croton-on-Hudson?
That's sitting next to you, everybody that's sitting up in the stands, everybody that's back in Croton.
What separates this small town from all the other small towns across the Northeast? The answer is community. In the 1970s, that something special was Coach Terry Smith and the Croton-Harmon Tigers.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning. Death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah.
My name's Terry Smith. I was coach of the Croton Tigers in the 70s, and we had some outstanding teams and outstanding players. We had an excellent staff. Ken Moss and Len Winsky coached the 75 team when they were freshmen and juniors. Freshmen and JV, and they did a great job. What brought me to Croton was a man named McCaffrey. He was the cross-country coach at Byram Hills, and I was the football coach there, and I was looking for a job like Croton where they needed a turnaround. They used to have 8 teams in each league, North and South, and at the end of the season, the last game, they would pick the first place team in the North and play the one in the South, and the last place team in the North would play the last place team in the South. And Croton was the last place team, and they'd play Dobbs Ferry. And 4 years in a row, both of them came into the game with no wins. So in 4 years, Croton only won 2 games. And I was looking for something like that, and I came up to Croton.
In 1973, he arrived here at Croton-Harmon to take control of a team that had won only 2 games in the previous 4 seasons. The Booster Club held a meet and greet for Coach Smith upon his arrival, and it was standing room only. Smitty let all those in attendance know that there was a new sheriff in town.
I was always of the opinion that if you do the little things and you work on them, and if you had good coaching, we could win. In fact, I made a statement to the Booster Club. There was a great Booster Club led by Mr. Giga and Caliento and Cassidy that really wanted a winner. And the first meeting, I remember it was overflowed. They couldn't get in. And I said to him, back me, get out of my way, and we'll win the league championship and the sectional championship in 3 years. Which we did. And somebody came up and said to me, did you know you were going to have Bruno and Bowersville and Cassidy and all those guys? I said no, but I just felt if we did what we should do as coaches, and we had some great leaders, Cass being one of them, who got into the weight room, got into doing the circuit, and they got better.
The background is when I remember being in grade school, 8th grade, Croton football wasn't very good. Not to disparage any of the prior student athletes, but Croton was not a good team. And I knew going into high school that I wanted to be on a good team and wanted to win games. So that was a challenge. Coach Smith came in my freshman year and took the program over, which was very lucky for me and my classmates and for the school. So we had someone who was a good leader and was a very good coach.
When he first came here, he always told us that he thought there was a lot of good athletes here. He always liked the community, and he always had wondered why Croton some years would do very, very well, and other years would not do as well, even though we seem to have a bunch of very talented athletes here, and we were blessed with that.
Up until then, there wasn't much of any kind of a leadership program or involvement in the school. Kids that played previous, we really had no clue with the previous coach, and it wasn't as organized. But 1973, when Terry Smith came here, he was an English teacher first, and he always said that academics and athletics were his first, and he kind of just set the tone right away. And it was really interesting because if I do remember back then, there wasn't a lot of people that believed in him, and but there was a handful of us that were still like, you know, we want to play some football, and at the same time we want to get an education here. And in Croton, it's basically a blue-collar town mixed in with some white-collar kids, and it was a good combination, and it really clicked.
I just knew, I was just overconfident in myself. And I was lucky I brought Moss and Winsky, they came along, and I just thought we could win. And we were lucky that on the first day I met you guys, I said, go home, because we got a freshman football team, and that helped. And I knew that if we got a freshman team and we kept all those guys together, and then we had a JV team. And one of the things I did that no one else did, and I don't know why they don't, I kept the same coach with the kids. I felt they wouldn't quit on the coach, rather than if you had a freshman coaches and JV coaches, when the kids came up, some of them would leave.
Right, I think the big thing was Terry Smith, for one, right? Lenny Goldberg, guys that care about you. And we kept up to these guys. And we didn't win, but we kept up with them, and a lot better than the year before. Let's put it that way, in '72. We didn't keep up with nobody. So the big thing to us was that we did pretty good, because you know what? It wasn't a blown out score.
We won one game that year, my senior year, but what was important, we started to score. We could score against teams, whereas before we didn't know what we were doing on the field. And it really, it was fun again. And that's really what high school's about. You gotta have some fun there, right?
Then they had guys after us that did phenomenal. So I think we were like a rebuilding team for these guys, because they came and watched you all the time, which is pleasant. So what do you say, Coach?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say, unfortunately, when we took over, they had losing was kind of an accepted deal. Mm-hmm. They were having fun playing a game, and win or losing didn't matter. And the attitude had to change. And Terry was great at guiding that.
Great philosopher.
Let them feel
Great
that what they do,
yeah.
if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well.
Yeah.
And that they could have success. And then once they got that concept that just physically beating on somebody is not the name of the game, there's a cerebral aspect to it that they needed to catch up with, and they started to do it. They turned it around.
So as we like to say fairly often, we were born at the right time, and had the great privilege of playing with one another and a lot of great teammates, but most significantly our Coach Smith, who was definitely ahead of his time in terms of calling plays and having us prepared. Never felt more prepared, both physically and intellectually, for a game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the takeaway that I get from Coach Smith, both from playing football and the success that we had, and also the success that we've all had going forward in our careers, is that great preparation makes for great successes. And we were simply better prepared. We were better prepared than everybody else, all the other teams that we played.
Speed was what we had. We worked on speed, we worked on running, then we worked on quick feet. We had drills that they used. We had called a circuit, which everything was done quickly. So we were developing quick strength. It was run in a circle, run 5 yards back and forth, sit-ups, push-ups, but for speed, how many you could do in 30 seconds, and then we had a target of 2/3, and the other thing I believed, and I think that people are wrong today, I wanted all our kids to play different sports. I pushed them into playing basketball. I loved the quarterbacks and running backs and ends to develop their hands. I loved the linemen playing wrestling. I loved the guys playing lacrosse or track. So I see these programs where people just say football or playing soccer year round. I gave them points for starting on how many programs they were in. We had most of our guys run 3 letters, and a couple of them run 5.
We played all kinds of sports. We played baseball, basketball, football, and by and large, we all played on the same teams together. And then, so we played against each other. And then we played, of course, with each other in high school. And those are lasting relationships that last to this day.
Film study was really what I think put us apart.
Coach Smith was years or decades ahead of all the other coaches of his time. His approach, the mental breakdown, the attention to detail. He would break down videos by position. In the old days, it wasn't like it is today. We had one 16mm tape, and we were going into each room, and linebacker coaches had the linebackers, the line coaches had the linemen, the defensive backs were with Coach Smith, and we broke down everything to the nth degree. It was just detail upon detail upon detail.
I had kids, and it was tough for me, but I eat dinner and boom, I was back down studying. Loved to study Pleasantville and Bronxville.
I do remember that. I remember 2 VCRs set up. I think at one point, film being watched downstairs, and then it was VCRs constantly rewinding and taking scouting notes of other teams.
This guy knew everybody's position and where to be on the field, which was really cool, because a lot of coaches don't really know a lot, but this guy knew his offense well and where you needed to be.
Breaking down game film with his coaching staff and his players was a trademark of Coach Smith. One of the last things you wanted during a film session was to be caught on tape making an error, because the film never lies.
All of us dreaded if we made any type of mistake on a Saturday going over the films, because Coach had already gone over the films many times by himself on Sunday. And he had looked at all the films, and he would go back and forth and look at each and every player on offense as well as defense. And if we were out of position or missed an assignment, many times Coach would stop the film and say,
"Who is that guy? Who is he? Who's that on the film?" Somebody would say, "That's me." And Coach would go, "Who the heck is me?" And he'd be yelling at him in the back, and we were just afraid to say that we made a mistake because he was quick to jump on us. But but we knew why he was jumping on us, and it was with the end result. And I think if you talk to any of the guys who played for him that won a ball game, it was all worth the time and effort that was put in.
Coach mentioned today that one of the things that he used to say was, if I'm yelling at you, you know that I still care.
It's when I'm not yelling at you that I think you get as good as you're going to be, and that's when you got to work.
Thankfully, we're all getting yelled at, as I recall.
But I, to this day, even with my oldest, who's now 19, and when she was in high school, and I was getting on her, and she'd say, I just cannot believe that you are just hollering at me so often and about such seemingly trivial things. And I just remember back to high school and the early lessons of, I care, and so because I care, I'm gonna keep communicating.
Now I'd yell at them, but then at the end of practice or 3 plays later, I'd say that's the way to do it, and give them some praise, because they were giving me their all.
You had to do what they said, so you're taking direction right there. All right, playing and hitting was the hardest part of the game, but they taught us how to do that. They taught us. It wasn't like you went out there and knew how to tackle. All right, we thought we knew how to tackle till they gave us the discipline and the knowledge of doing things like that.
The student athletes at Croton-Harmon knew Smitty as their English teacher and their football coach. The side they didn't see was the family man and his special relationship with his children.
He was not just a great football coach, but I played field hockey and lacrosse, and so did my sister, and he, I wouldn't say dedicated himself to it, but he picked up that sport very easily. And then he would take us, he built a field hockey cage in our front yard, and he would run us through drills that he thought would help us, which was great to have a second coach, almost a private coach. I'm sure you had it even more with football. But to say, he said, like, what do you want to do this year? Do you want to start? I do. He's like, all right, I think I know what can get you there, and that would be a goal. And then in college, do you want to be an All-American? I think I can get you there. And he would take me through drills and practice to help develop my skills. He used to, what did we get timed at, 40?
40, yeah.
He used to help us, so it's in college and in high school, the first thing you would do to practice, they would time you in like your mile and your 40-yard dash. And to get better at it, he created his own resistance trainer, which was a girdle, the rib
pad. It's a rib cage protector strapped to a tire with weights in it.
Strapped to a tire, and the weight, it was like a bench press weight.
Yeah,
so
it's like
wouldn't
45s and 25-pound weights.
It wouldn't fit in the tire, so you run and you hear like ding, 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 ding. So I'd go to school the next day and someone would say, did I see you running down the street with a tire on your back? What is your dad making you do? But he never made us, he never made me do it. He asked if you wanted to do it, and if you wanted to do it, he would take you through it. I think it might have been
You
different.
never minded it. No. I mean, we set goals, but he would never make us train. And I didn't mind it. You get tired, but I loved him. He was my dad, and I feel like a lot of his players did too. So if you love somebody and they're telling you to do something because it's good for you, it's a little bit easier. So I would run with that tire 20, 30 times in the morning, and it was really tough. My friends would drive by and they'd be partying all night, and they'd be driving by at 6 in the morning. They're like, what are you doing? What is that thing on you? I'm like, I'm running, I'd be sweating, but I didn't mind it. Like, it was good. And he was, like AJ said, he wasn't punitive, he was more rewarding. He used the carrot more than the stick. So he'd be like, oh, that was great, I can't believe you just did that in 6 seconds with 45 pounds strapped to your back. So you felt good at the end of it. So you were dog tired, and you didn't like it at the beginning, but by the end of the time, it made you feel good about it, and you got better. The results were there. I got a lot faster.
We did a lot of drills, and I can remember one of the first games, I got on Gober because his linemen weren't reading the keys, and he said, well, I taught him, I told him, I said, you didn't do a good enough job. He said, what should I do? I said, make up a drill. So we always just made up drills to teach what we wanted. We used to just do form tackling. We'd put jerseys down, and the guy, the running back would just run, and he'd kind of jump up in the air, and he'd hit, and he'd fall through. We worked on technique because we didn't want people to get hurt. I think the other thing that we had, line coach had this Ho Chi Minh drill. He'd put 2 dummies down, kids would start in the middle, and one guy was in defense, he could use his hands, the other guy was on offense, and they battled to see who could get him off the dummy, and that taught the line. I think that's what made the lineman. The other thing I think was amazing is we played the pro 4-3, and our defensive ends were on the tackles, and they could stop the rollout. I think the line coach did a great job on that.
When we were on defense, he gave us, we used pro keys, and certainly it was much different than we were accustomed to, just trying to defeat a block or going after the ball carrier. If you used pro keys, as Coach Smith had us do, whatever the blocking was on offense, it would lead you to the person carrying the ball. And when you followed that way of thinking and followed that tactic, sometimes you would tackle the person in the backfield because the blocker led you to that particular ball carrier just a split second after he received the ball from the quarterback. And until we saw it done, certainly some of the athletes the first year or two, they weren't sure if that actually would work, but we found out later that it did. And when the younger athletes had gone through Coach Smitty's system, it certainly, by the 3rd year that he was here at Croton, it produced winning teams.
And Mr. Smith just had such an awesome system from when you were a freshman to you're a senior. And it just made life so easy. When you go on the field, it was like you'd laugh at these guys. Yeah, I'm not a big tall guy, but when I was a little JV guy, we'd go and we'd play new balls. They were like 3 times as big. And we'd end up beating them up. It's like little old Crotons here because we had Terry Smith's plays. And that's where that's what he did.
It came from the fact that we had worked together in the past, Terry and I, and Len Winsky was the fellow that worked with me, and we had success all along the way, and it just continued. I have to make one correction. Terry, I think, was quoted from one of my former players as saying that the JV team lost 1 game their JV year, but they didn't. We were undefeated. So it's a rare thing to go undefeated. And this particular group, that 75 team, when they were JVs, they were undefeated, 8-0. And when they were seniors, they were undefeated. And to go undefeated is a rarity, and to do it twice in your career is exceptional.
Coach Smith was way ahead of his time. He had a unique approach to the game, a wealth of knowledge of how to build a program, and utilized coaching techniques that were unheard of on the high school level in the 1970s. The idea of looping coaches with their players to provide consistency, studying film and analyzing game clips of his team as well as the opponents, the attention to detail, and the focus on the cerebral aspect of the game, not just the physical. All of this separated Coach Smith and his program from the rest of the pack.
There was a lot of doubt as to how good the Croton athlete was and how good a football team we could field. And so we had to prove that wrong. And I remember Coach Smith, we were down in Pleasantville my junior year, and playing a team that had won 35 games in a row, or state champs 3 years in a row. And we had just come off a loss at home against Briarcliff in the rain, 7-6. So we were 1-1, and although we had a lot of success at the JV level and the freshman level, no one had proved it at the varsity level.
The Pleasantville game was a great game. I wouldn't want to play them again. They were very good. We scored, I can't remember how, just basic plays. We went down and scored a touchdown, and they had the ball. They got the ball down deep in our territory, and we stopped them.
One of my proudest moments as a football player is me coming to the sideline and telling Coach Smith that I could beat their guard inside and block the punt. We must have ran punt return right and punt return left 1,000 times in practice. We never varied from this. The last thing they suspected was that we were going to block a punt. I went to the sideline, so I can beat this guy, Coach. Coach gave me the okay. At that point, I stuffed their star running back, Tony Arcidiacano, blasted the ball back into his face, picked it up, a lineman's dream, ran it to the 14-yard line until their quarterback, Tony Zuzolo, jumped on my back. I was embarrassed, but it was still a great moment.
They were so busy defending our punt return, which was a super return, that they didn't block him, and he blocked the punt. And we got, again, 14 points at halftime. We were up. And at halftime, we went in and we went over everything. And the last thing I said was,
"You guys better watch out. This team's going to come back." And we were winning 14-0. And I'm like, whoa. And the guys are like thinking it's all hunky-dory. And then he was right.
Doggone, if they kick off to us, kick off, boom, I don't know who was catching it, fumbled it, and they got it. And they went in and scored. I mean, I'm almost losing the game. And then they kicked off again, and we ran a couple plays, and we ran a trap, fumble. They go up.
They scored up. Their points were 21-14.
We did come back. We had a play that we just put in this whole series. We faked a trap on a third down and 1. We faked a trap. Quarterback turned his back to the field, acted like he wasn't doing anything, and then threw the ball down to Frank. Frank made a great catch, and we went on to win the game. But that was something that I almost screwed the whole baby up.
The best part about it was watching the tears in the Pleasantville people's eyes as we walked off the field. The arrogance that they had towards us was unbelievable.
They beat Pleasantville. That was like the biggest upset in Westchester County. It was like the pros. It was like unheard of. They broke their record. And but what I want to say is that people were so into it in Pleasantville. I'm a little guy, 6th grader. I go back in to get like a first aid kit I left in the locker room, and this old man goes to me, "Hey kid, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm a Croton. I'm going to get the first aid kit." He hit me with his cane. Nobody ever knows that. Nobody knew that, but that's how into it they were down in Pleasantville. That's how high school football was around here.
It was probably the most pivotal game in that era, in my opinion. And we never lost a game after that year and the next.
Then they kept winning and winning, and it was like an oddity. They used to call themselves Mean Machine from the longest yard when that first came out. And we used to practice over at Croton Point, take the bus over. People from Croton know that.
I liked Croton Point because there was nobody around. And we could practice out there. Frank made All-American, and one of the reasons why was the coach from Brown, Penn State, came out and watched us practice. And we did something that nobody else does, and I don't know why they don't. When we run pass patterns, every guy who runs out on the pass pattern gets a ball thrown to him. So you'd see 5 balls in the air. But Frank, being on the outside, and he was near the road, and cars wouldn't stay on the road. They'd come in, and there were ruts, and Frank we'd run it out, and he'd swivel his head around, see the ball, look down, see if there are any ruts, look up and catch it. And the coach couldn't believe it. He also said, talking about why we won, he has seen every high school. He just went around all year to different high schools and watched them play. He said that we had the 5 most talented guys in any high school on this side of the Mississippi, which was quite a comment. He said there might be some schools that have 2 guys that, their 2 guys are better than your top 2 guys, but no one has 5. And he was talking about Cass and Donnie and Reed, Frank, and Retzlaff in Ackerman.
I'll take you back a little bit. So Terry Smith says to us, guys, I just want to let you know, okay, if you listen to me, we will be very successful here. It might not happen this year, but I guarantee you, in 3 years, Croton football will dominate, and we'll have a successful program here. We'll be a winning team. And he was right. 3 years later, they were undefeated. No one scored on them, okay? And they went to bowl team. They're the team of the decade in Westchester County. And so it was really a big turning point.
Waiting for the break of day, searching for something to say, flashing lights against the sky, giving up, I close my eyes, sitting cross-legged on the floor.
An amazing display, but certainly not amazing to anyone who's seen the Tigers in action this year. Just fantastic exhibition of their offense. When you run up point totals of against Irvington, for instance, in that rain-delayed game, they led Irvington 16-0 at the half, and they decided to play the second half on Monday, as you Croton fans will remember, and then won the ball game over Irvington by a score of 40-0, beating Byram Hills 51-28. Those 28 points, the most that the Tigers gave up in any one game, and I guess Terry Smith perhaps had something to say to his defense, because then the following week they knocked over Hastings 40.
Try to do some more. 25 or 6 to 4.
Not know that is the end of the ball game, and Croton has won. Congratulations to Terry Smith, his staff, and the Croton Ball Club for a resounding 45-8 win over Haldane. Our congratulations also to head coach Ralph Panetta and his ball club and assistant coaches putting up a real fine battle in this Class C championship, although their outclassed early, fell behind. Halftime was 23-0, and the final score of the ball game 45-8. Both teams congratulating each other on the center of the field. The Croton fans spilling onto the field with their enthusiasm, and well, they might be excited about a second undefeated season for Terry Smith Tigers. They go 9-0, defend their Class C championship successfully with a win tonight over Haldane 45-8. The highlights, the wrap-up of the game on a delayed broadcast over WLNI, brought to you by Cole and Son Hardware.
One of the unique situations I had that probably maybe only 1 or 2 of the other players had was that after I graduated college and I played for Coach Smith, I came back. I was working at Croton High School and was on staff with him, both here, and then he left here for a few years at Edgemont. And you know, I got to coach with him. And you know, as a student, you saw the detail, the game plans on a Monday, but then you see the time and effort that he put in week in and week out in terms of the preparation with the other coaches and practice plans. And you know, what he did certainly shaped myself. And I know I coached here with Ray Fortini. Ray and I were here. Danny Cassidy, the quarterback from the 75 team, came back as a volunteer. And there were a couple others, I'm sure, along the way. But as players, we recognize it now. But as soon as I jumped into the arena as a coach with Mr. Smith, with Coach Smith, he was unbelievable. You know, that attention to detail and that preparation, and we were ready for anything. And that, you know, not only in coaching has that helped me, but in life, you know, just being prepared for any situation that might come along, and being able to deal with any situation that came along, and not, you know, having a problem with that, and having an approach and a plan and a set of principles to kind of go by. So I was fortunate to have him both as a coach and you know, be on staff with him.
I've had many of the kids come up and tell me, they recite some of the things that you know, like, practice doesn't make you better, it's better practice, all that type of thing. And the kids, and these guys are an example that have learned that if you give everything, and for example, when they played Pleasantville as freshmen, they lost, I think it was 20-6. They lost again as JVs. We beat them as juniors, and we destroyed them when they were seniors, all through working hard. Football, I think, is the greatest sport there is for camaraderie and teaching you this life lessons. You get hurt, you get back up.
You know, none of us were academians.
None
of us were real. I shouldn't say that. A few of us were. Frank, Cass, those guys went to Harvard, and you know, there was a bunch of those guys. But a lot of us, the majority of us, we were no academians. And if we didn't get out of football what we got from these guys, we wouldn't have gotten anywhere in life. And these guys gave us our education. Our education was on the football field.
The 1975 team was a few years ahead of me in school, but their impact, I can remember going up to the high school for August workouts and having 100 guys in the back of the high school in preseason led by those captains. They were tremendous leaders, they were great students, great community members, and our relationships have stayed intact up to this day. Regrettably, I wasn't able to see them at the day down at the yacht club with Coach because I was out of town. But every chance I get, we connect, and you know, there's a lot of talk about what Coach Smith and Coach Akuri and Coach Gober, Coach Young, Moss, Winsky, all the coaches, Padula, McMahon, all the guys that work with Coach Smith, and what an amazing staff that was. People don't understand the football minds that were there, and the way they motivated, and they were teachers of the game. It was so cerebral. We just got on the field and we'd be up 2 or 3 touchdowns, and the other team wouldn't know what hit them because we played just with an incredible head to the game. Everybody knew their assignments, did their jobs. Then we'd get into some formations where we could beat up on them physically after we had stunned them from the mental side. And Coach was just amazing, tremendous in what he did. I was a small part of our bowl team in '77, but the experience has lasted a lifetime for me in my coaching world.
It's been a big part of my life. We spent basically 30 years together, and we became friends first, and really now I feel like family. And it's been a source of great enjoyment for me, and hopefully he feels the same way. I learned an awful lot about, never mind just football, but coaching philosophy that I picked up from Terry. And it put me in good stead when I coached other sports, and great help in life itself, not taking things for granted, and the way that you teach, the way that you present yourself. And Terry was ahead of his time. And I like to think that I was a good companion coach with him, but certainly I owe any success I have to a lot of things that he taught me. It sounds like it's simple, but little things like you can't just tell students to do things. You have to demonstrate it, have a drill to be able to teach it, to be able to do it properly.
Coach Smith's impact on me as a high school coach, he was my first and foremost influence. With regards to how he coached back in the 70s, his attention to detail, his video breakdown has transferred into my sport of basketball. And fortunately, I've been around to accumulate over 300 wins, and I wouldn't be anywhere near that if Coach Smith's influence hadn't come upon me.
He was contacted by the Chicago Bears to become part of the Chicago Bears coaching staff. But he said, I believe in high school athletics. He said it was one of the best parts of my life as a young person, as I hope it is for you. And I want to let you know and impress upon you that you're more important to me than money.
What was the chemistry of working with high school students, or these high school students in particular?
The chemistry?
Yeah, like how
I don't know about the chemistry. I do know that halfway through the season I turned to Coach Gover and I said, you know, these are guys that I, in the future, would love to have a drink with. They were just great guys.
Today is, here's a perfect example of what happens 40 years later. I'm out 40 years out of high school, which is hard to believe, and there's people still coming back for this.
Smitty's influence on his coaching staff, players, and community has proven to be timeless. The player-coach relationship at Croton-Harmon during his tenure was certainly unique. Not only did his student athletes take away life lessons from their experiences playing under him, but they remember his exact words to this very day.
Rolling. What do you say, Coach? You want to talk first? Do you want to?
No, we'll let you go.
Well, my voice isn't the best, but
that's all right.
Let me tell you something.
This is one of the earliest guys that we coached.
I played.
What was this play you're talking about? This sounded really.
Tommy Bowersfeld ran and he's no good. About a 64-yard TD, and Ralph Hildinger was flagged for the holding on it. Well, years later, Hildinger never held on that play. It was me, and I just have to confess, never held. I just have to say before I leave this world, that it was me.
I love it. Tell me something about ringing the bell now.
Ding! And there you go. Jeff Davis and Tommy Bass, they used to ring my bell. And we pecked it on down the line to the us guys. We spread it right down back to everybody else.
Yeah, that fella's wrong with us. And there's nothing wrong with me.
Terry Smith, he kept me motivated, and through his program, what was interesting is that I had an opportunity 3 years later to go to college, and I got a full scholarship because of this football program here. Very successful.
Nice.
And I couldn't be more happier having that opportunity back then.